season is winding down, so this is my last Earnings All-Star video of this earnings season. There's still some more retailers yet to come, a few more techie names, and then we're going to get some of those fiscal year reporters like the Microns and the Nikes coming up in a couple of weeks. But otherwise, we're mostly done with this earnings season. However, there are 5 must-see charts this week that you shouldn't miss. These are some tech names, some in some other hot spaces, I won't say what those are, and some recovery plays. Let's jump right in and see what they are. The first must-see chart is Salesforce.com CRM. And look at this chart. They haven't missed since 2017, since Zacks data began. And that includes the pandemic. Looks like they had like a meet there in the second quarter of 2020, but that's okay. It's still a meet, so no red arrows here. Shares did soar during the pandemic, as you can see. And but they've mainly been kind of treading water here. So year to date, they're up just 15%. That's a little under the S&P 500, which is doing 17, 18% now. But still not bad performance. But everybody's just kind of waiting for some kind of catalyst with Salesforce. It is trading at 67 times forward earnings, so it's pretty pricey here. So it's catching its breath a little bit, waiting to see what happens with earnings. So this is definitely one on the tech side everybody's going to be tuning into. Then we're going to tune in to a mystery company, Titan Machinery, TITN. I don't think I've ever covered it here on Earnings All-Stars because look at the chart. There was nothing all-star about it until 2020 when it hit those pandemic lows and then has taken off. Why is it taken off? Because the agriculture cycle has changed and we're now in a super cycle for agriculture. What does Titan Machinery do? They own retail stores that sell agriculture and construction equipment. So mainly Case and New Holland are their brands, but they have 75 dealerships in North America, 34 in Europe, and everybody's buying that farm equipment and as well as the construction equipment. So they've soared here, as you can see. Year to date, they're still up 40%, but off those highs, trading at only 15 times because that's what happens at the beginning of a super cycle in agriculture. The street is not catching up, but the earnings start to soar. And so you get these cheap PEs here, when you have the good back end. So Titan Machinery, if you've missed out on Deere, AGCO, and some of the others, this is one to watch this week. I'm expecting another good report. The street is a little dubious whether or not we've seen peak earnings, but we should just be in the early stages of the super cycle. So Titan Machinery is one you must watch. Then we're going to switch it back over to tech in Marvell, ticker MRVL. Also a good earnings chart, much like Salesforce, but it has those 2 misses back in 2018, 2019. It didn't miss during the pandemic, so that's impressive. And it's putting together those meets or beats ever since. Now, these shares have busted out to new highs after this nice track record. They're up 25% year to date, and over the last year, up 78%. But now trading at 42 times for the digital storage maker. So, semis have been hot with some areas of the semiconductors. This is one of them. But how much are you willing to pay for those earnings? We will see. Then keeping it on the tech train, we're going with Dell. Yes, Dell is making the Earnings All-Stars videos this week. DELL, look at that track record. Really, they went IPO again down here, heading into 2019. So we've had about 9 quarters in a row, I guess, here. And that is also impressive during the pandemic with those big beats during the pandemic. Why is that? Well, we were all getting laptops, right? Or some kind of equipment, both to work from home and from school. So that's really driving the E here. These shares are still dirt cheap because the E is soaring, trading at just 12 times, even though they are at these new 3-year highs here. Shares have taken a little bit of a break, though, waiting to see what is coming next. So we will see if they get a catalyst off this earnings report. And then we're going to wrap it up with one of the big earnings or all-stars from the pandemic, Peloton, one of the big pandemic plays. But what will happen now that the recovery is on? Yes, even with some of the restrictions going on and mask wearing being back in gyms, will people, stick with their plan? Order that Peloton that they didn't get to buy last year? We will see. It's put together 4 big beats in a row. The shares are down 28% year to date on these worries that the best is already priced in. It is trading at 101 times forward earnings, however. So also still really pricey, especially for this possibility of a new dynamic where sales aren't quite as hot as what we saw in 2020 on the shutdowns. So this is definitely going to be one to watch on the recovery plays. We haven't heard from Zoom yet. They're still to come, but other than Zoom, Peloton perhaps the biggest winner during the pandemic, and now we'll see what happens during the recovery. So this earnings season has lived up to predictions that it would be the best earnings season ever. And it is. We had record earnings for this earnings season. But now the questions are starting to seep in with the Delta variant outbreak happening. What happens for Q3 and Q4 and even into 2022? Will this outbreak damper earnings for the third quarter? So far, companies are saying no, they're not seeing it. But it's still early in the third quarter. So if you want to know and get some guidance, watch some of those fiscal reporters I mentioned early on in this video. Watch the Microns and the Nikes of the world, the ones that are reporting on that fiscal year, because they're going to give us some guidance. But otherwise, we're still expected to see a good third quarter earnings season. So I'll be back in the fall with all the action for that one. And as always, it's been a fun and a pleasure to bring you all these earnings charts. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any in the fall for third quarter. It's at zacks.com/YouTube on our YouTube channel, and I'll see you all in the fall.